Greetings, little men and JDs. This is Valheim. Oh yes, oh yes, oh. And this is one of my top 3 favorite games of all time. Valheim is a game where you can create a vast, procedurally generated Viking purgatory where we will have to build, fight, and survive. We'll create a cozy dwelling with mighty defenses and slay many mythical creatures. Now, I've always wanted to make a video on this game because, well, I felt like playing it without showing it off had absolutely no purpose to me at all. So, I mean, here we are. Other than that, welcome to episode 1 of Valheim. So to start off my journey, I named my character as Bjorn and created a world named the Realm of Odin. Whenever the Valkyrie dropped me in this world, I was immediately met with a talking raven named Hugin. He serves as my little guide for progress. Shortly after meeting Hugin, I registered Eikthyrs Vegvisir into my map. Being a lone Viking means I must start from the ground up, so I began collecting sticks and stones off of the ground. I foraged some meager berries and mushrooms to stave off my hunger and increase my stats a small amount. While I was peacefully collecting stones, my first enemy appeared, and yeah, this is how it ended. Later, I snuck up behind a deer to collect some meat and hide for future instances, and then I angered a little boar. The boar will help me craft a bow, which is essential to my playstyle. After scouting out some suitable land for my base, I swam across and began making it home. I decided to roast up some boar meat after a while and assembled a quick workbench area. Wood was such an issue to me at this point because I'm always focusing on an objective other than getting a load of wood, because I kept hunting boars and deer. I finished the workbench area and beat the shit out of a grayling. It was also getting quite dark, so I constructed myself a bed and was slightly jump scared by Hugin. I couldn't sleep because the bed was too exposed, so I went and chopped more wood to protect my slumber. The next morning, I was out and about and came across a runestone. I took my interest of weapon into the spear for now, solely because I didn't kill enough boars to obtain the bow. Space was getting tight, but I made a chest to take care of that. On the way to Eikthyrs' altar, I found an old house that had no bees, unfortunately, but did have another torch and flint. Once ready, I went to the altar and made the sacrifice, buffed up, and then waited for Eikthyr to spawn. Most of this fight is me poking and prodding him to death while he shocks me to hell. I managed to somehow parry Eikthyr, but eventually he was basically down to 1 HP and I took him out. He dropped his antlers and his head to hang on a wall. His antlers are the gateway to the first pickaxe, the hard antler pickaxe. I flexed on him, then went to spawn to place his head. I took a kneel and then headed home to build more storage space. I sorted and stored all my items and then slept until morning. I grabbed my pickaxe and stowed some rations the next day because it was time to find both tin and copper. I really wanted to build myself a raft, but I didn't have the materials, of course. Back home, I crafted a hoe so I can mold an area into flat land for a boar pen. Whenever the fences were put in place, it was time to play chicken with the boar. However, I did anger 2 boars and got them both into the pen on the first try. While out foraging, I came back every once in a while to watch them acclimatize to the environment. I got the materials for the raft, so I placed it in a nearby bay. I didn't know where to go. I just traveled like 4 feet. I, however, did indeed find a black forest. It wasn't too long before I found a structure for the Eikthyrs Vegvisir. Turns out that the Grey Dwarf Brute is a 1-star, so I shouldn't mess with him. I explored the creek-looking area and finally found something to mine. I found tin. I mined most of the deposits I found and marked the others I didn't have time to. But look at this deer, man. So majestic. Away from the black forest that I was previously in, I stumbled upon an abandoned camp, and a troll. A beehive was a great find and a good addition to my stamina supply. Night was getting dangerous, so I headed back to the raft and ran back home. With a good night's sleep, I made a new chest, sorted my storage a bit, and placed the new beehive. I would say both boars weren't tamed, but only one was in the pen. After I fixed the escape route, I went back to the abandoned camp to scout the other buildings. Little did I know, there was a maypole right there. I tried breaking it, but I only got thistle. This is what a fair amount of hours gets you. I ran to the black forest for some loot, hopefully, but there was another troll. I ran to the ruined structure and hoped it would grant some safety up high, but Big Brother decided he was just gonna break the whole place down. I saw more enemies coming, so I just ended up dipping because I still had Eikthyrs power. But out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a valuable. Okay, now back to dipping. I placed the hive, but broke it because I noticed my frames were wet. I placed my bees again and took a gander at the world tree. In the morning, I found my old boar that had escaped and had it chase me to the pen. After finally reimbursing my stock of boars, I found another black forest, and well, you know what that means. Tin mining! I had to whoop some more Grey Dwarf ass, and while fighting boars, a skeleton walked up to me.
Hello, Mario.
I dealt with him and tried to locate the dungeon, but had Hugin find it for me. Every other step was a fight with an idiotic skeleton because of the spawner. Getting overwhelmed with all the enemies, I debated on leaving, but took them out one by one. I was overwhelmed by the archers and just ended up leaving. I got jumped by a gang of Grey Dwarfs on the way home and had to power up. Once home again, I sorted my loot and geared up for once by crafting a bow and tower shield. I was AFK for a little bit waiting for the boars to tame, but the first forest movement began and I looked up from my phone just as soon as the music changed. The whole thing was essentially me just running around trying to keep my structures from being targets, and eventually the forest rested again. And I did what any smart man would do. Later my boar was tamed and I put my archery skills to practice. I waited for the other boar to tamed and named them Oinker and Smellus respectively. While exploring, I ended up finding another Ichthyoroctor and thought now would be a good time to conquer that dungeon. I took care of both the skeletons until I realized that only 2 can be active at once around a single spawner, and that there's a limited number of spawns, so I waited out and killed many skeletons until it was clear to proceed. The loot was good, as you can see. I crossed out the dungeon on my map and found a hotspot of tin to mine. Shortly a distance away before I ran into another dungeon, however. Just around the corner were my first couple of blueberries. The area also appeared to have a mini village, but I did see an opportunity on the way back. My fight with Ichthyor knocked down many trees, so I got me a bunch of wood. I checked on the pigs on the way home, and they had a little baby. The next morning, I destroyed everything and flattened my land because I was going to build a new house. I'm not actually an incredibly creative guy at all, so this house was not going to be the best. I mean, I made an effort to try designs, but it was just bland. But hey, it works. The workspace was made, the smelter was constructed, and a new storage system was created. Storage was refilled with my items, and the floor was filled in. Back at the Black Forest, I mined some more tin. Can never have enough. Then entered the new dungeon. I got jumped almost immediately, and then left. I came across my first copper deposit, finally, and mined to my heart's content. But later my pickaxe broke, and I went home. I'm thinking about some new upgrades for my armor, so I hunted down a troll in the Black Forest. I wanted to make a full set of troll armor for more defense, and I faced my challenge.
Let's do this.
I mined more of that copper deposit, which was huge by the way. I got more tin, and also found an abandoned outpost with a barrel of goodies and a temporary storage as my inventory was full. The stool outside was made of fine wood, and it granted me some new recipes to my mind. Literally 3 seconds away was a new copper deposit, and I tracked it on my map. Back home, the boars are doing well, other than being constantly harassed. I ended up making the rookie mistake of crafting a tunic when I should have crafted the trousers for more armor, but inevitably, it did grant me more willpower to take on the second dungeon. Help me! The 1-star skeleton was killed, along with the feeble-minded one, and the treasure was mine. Simple as that. The area behind home was carved into a smelting area where I placed the smelter and kiln, which fueled my progress. Finally, the forge was placed after lots of smelting. I placed a roof over it to craft my first ever butcher knife. My first bronze was met, and it was crafted into nails for a cart. While all the bronze components were smelting, I upped our wood supply because it was getting quite low, but that also means I got myself a cart now. I slept until morning to essentially speed up smelting time and crafted up some more bronze. Utilizing my new tool, tin was much easier to collect. You could say the same for copper because I can get loads of both now. Once my pickaxe broke, I stored my other tin along with my current goods. I was about to go inside before I noticed a little bro outside the pen. Aside from that, the ruined village still had a beast that needed purging. And I'm the hero. He was taken down, but he did end up destroying a house. Free wood. Just past the village was a black forest with some nice land. I did find my first carrot seeds in the groves though, and just around the rock was a copper deposit. Then there was a dungeon? My curiosity got the best of me, so I ventured into the dungeon. To save you time, I killed like 6 skeletons, found 3 startling cores here, and then 2 here. You know what that means. New smelter. The cart was my traveling storage, so there the cores went. It later occurred to me that the land outside is very suitable for a base. The area nearby needs to be prepared to become a Black Forest base, so I gave it a campfire and map marker to signify it later. I also laid a few materials down for future use. Leaving the traveling cart out in the open wasn't the best idea, but the nearby campfire is a good place to store it. However, it occurred to me that this is a better fit for a main base instead. Once there were 3 carts, the transport was on. I of course faced hardships, but damn! Near the new base, I found a new dungeon because of the stray skeletons.
What's up, fucker?
Now that all 4 carts are together, I flattened more land to get an idea of what I want my base to look like. I needed an upgrade at this point. So to do that, I placed a temporary forge, smelted up some ores, and crafted the bronze needed for my bronze axe. To sum it up, I chopped all kinds of wood and ended up with this. Then I flattened the land more. A new smelter was built to double my smelting speed, and it was just an obsession at this point. I had to get a giant base, okay? I remembered there was enough leftover materials to craft a troll hood, and it gave me more confidence about taking on the new dungeon. Also, it turns out that everything loves to attack my base while I'm away, so there's that. My carts were starting to get a little bit obtrusive, so I moved them to the side of the base for now. But after that, it's house time. So down came the temporary housing. Every night would be me seeking out wood and fighting for my life. But with enough wood, I finally began constructing my house. The house began with the deck being the first thing constructed, but later I was puzzled as to if the deck should be open or cell-like. I didn't like it because it was too boxy. However, after experimenting with core wood, it appealed to me much more. I like this a lot more because it reminded me of cabins, and I find cabins quite cozy, so we will call it a morale boost. The side deck was next up, and I replaced the original logs with newer ones to see how it looked. But moving on from that, I found an appropriate length for the porch or deck or whatever the hell you call it. The front was where I struggled a little bit. Considering the house is on stilts, it was hard finding out how far the roof should dip down. Eventually, I concluded to not give a damn and proceed with framing. Once the triangle was built, I added a beam detail ranging the whole front. The deck and top house were the next on the list, but I couldn't wrap my head around designs strictly because I am not creative. Soon enough, it was just standing beams with the floor as a roof for now. I am no architect, so everything yellow and red are completely faults that I do not know how to fix yet. The top room I had no idea what to use for, but it could be like a freaky dungeon or something, I don't know.
What did he say?
If only there were friendly allies or NPCs, that would be an easy room allocation, Terraria type shit. I finished the front of the room like I did the house, and got off because I was quite bored. Back on, I did get tons and tons of wood, but I played around too much and had my first death to a troll. Hugin of course antagonized me about it. Later I retrieved my goods and went back to woodcutting. With enough wood I had to mock up a house design for the rear, so a square sufficed for the now. The floor was built with some beams underneath, and I found out that living near a black forest is hard because of so many trolls. I ended up killing him because dang, it was raining, which is bad for my exposed floors and structures, but it'll be fine. I attempted structure support in the freaky dungeon, but it just never works out. What am I missing here? I did try to experiment with the roof support, but my deteriorating floors interrupted me. It's probably unanimous under the decision that this house needs a second floor, so that is why there's weird support here. Engineers, please do not hunt me. I had some sort of truss system going and I finished the roof. Here it is so far. The rain did rot my wood, it seems, so I spent a lot of time repairing it all. My wood supply was dangerously low, which meant it is time to get some trees growing. At the back of the base, I started my grand wall placeholder for my future grand wall. Since it was nearing Christmas at the time of recording, I did spice up the scene with some decorations. Next, I allocated all of my stone into piles and cultivated some land for some small carrot farming. I crafted up a trollhide cape and then started scaling the land to my liking. I wanted a giant plot of land where I never needed expansion because I may need a larger base later on. I won't tell you how long it took, but I will tell you that it was fucking long. Eventually, it occurred to me that there was a boar room near my house, meaning it is tied to 2 boar spawns. Hastily, I made a pin, but I only managed to get 1 boar inside, and a net. My mind was fixated on a permanent corner away from the house, but then I connected the 2 pins. Why? Because I can transport the first boar in, then get the other boar into the old pin, and later transport that boar to the new pin. My trees had grown the next morning, so you best believe I had them trees chopped. The Great Wall construction is ready and goes great until I found out that my oak trees are fully grown. Yummy wood. Basically, the result of this is many stacks of wood. The wall was soon finished, but I needed entry in and out, so I counted. I did the same for the other side as well. I moved my smelters and crafting stations, and finally all carts to the backside. The wood stacks look pretty nice here, not gonna lie. The interior was hard to mock up rooms for, but I decorated the main room just for now. Here's a final look top down on my base right now, which does conclude the first episode. I hope everyone enjoyed this playthrough as much as I did, and you can share your feedback in the comments below because it would help me a lot. The house is a little unfinished, but it will be fixed next time I play. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next adventure.